Hey guys, and welcome to today's YouTube Idiots video. In today's video, we're going to be covering a familiar face on this channel, Lanka Coloma, who many of you may remember as being the anti-mask Karen who was walking around and harassing essential workers, telling them that they'd be fined by her federal agency, the Freedom to Breathe Agency. Now, I said many times that when the mask mandates were lifted that these anti-mask Karens would find a new home. Many of them would become anti-vaccination Karens, many of them would become sovereign citizen Karens, and many of them would become both. This video is a prime example of when an anti-mask Karen becomes a full-blown sovereign citizen Karen. So let's begin.
Friday morning on May 7th, around 10 o'clock, that I was peacefully exercising my constitutionally secured right to travel in my private automobile from place A to place B.
She's right. The Constitution does actually protect the right of the citizens to travel freely between the states. However, it does not protect the right of the citizens to be able to choose to use a motor vehicle when exercising their right to travel.
I was going for a meeting in the morning, and I was observing all the traffic lights, the speed limits, the stop signs, which, by the way, is not the law.
Wrong, Karen. Yeah, you have to follow speed limits, stop signs, stoplights, and all traffic laws, or you're going to get your dumb ass fined and eventually arrested.
But as society and as a responsible and conscious American, of course, I want to be safe, and I want to ensure that everyone around me is safe as well. So I'm very safe and good traveler.
It's just like a Karen to tell us that the only reason that she follows speed limits, stop signs, and other traffic laws is so that she can show society how polite and respectful she can be.
I know how to drive my car, although this is a legal term, okay? But this is what we are kind of using. So anyway, I have a constitutionally secured right as an American state national to travel in my private automobile, and I don't need to be licensed because I'm not operating a car. I am not doing business, so I'm not in commerce.
So this not in commerce argument is straight out of the Softardian Citizens Field Manual. And basically it goes, because I'm not in interstate commerce, I don't need a commercial driver's license, which is true for the most part. But then the Sovtards conveniently forget that there's a 10th Amendment out there that gives the states the rights and powers to govern themselves for anything that's not expressly covered by the Constitution. And the right to operate a motor vehicle on public roadways is not expressly covered in the Constitution.
So you see, most people completely forgot, and they're not even aware that right to travel in our private automobiles is a secured right under the supreme law of the land, which is the Constitution, the Fifth Amendment, your right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness.
What the fuck? The Fifth Amendment covers due process of law, not the right to travel. Karen, you're an idiot.
So I was traveling peacefully in my private automobile, and out of nowhere I noticed a police car behind me, and he came really close, and then of course the red lights went on. And so, I said, okay, well, I guess something must be wrong, so I pulled to the side. See, the problem was for the officer, he did not recognize my private plate with my diplomatic immunity, which is the Z stamp on it.
Oh my goodness. One does not give oneself diplomatic immunity, Karen, even if you have a Z stamp.
Who I truly am. So I kind of, was aware of it, so that's why I pulled over and I stopped. But you see, the moment he actually put the red lights on, he created a false report of emergency, which is felony under the California Penal Code 148.3, because he created a false report of emergency. There was no emergency. There was no one hurt. There was nothing happening. I was completely peacefully traveling without any damage, any loss, any injury. So I pulled the window down about 6 inches, and he came over and I asked him, "Officer, what is the emergency?" And he told me, "You do not have a proper license plate on." And I explained to him, first of all, that he took an oath of office in performance of his duties, which is to uphold and defend the Constitution that secures my right. And one of those rights is my right to travel in my private automobile. And that's exactly what I am doing.
Yes, Karen, you do have the right to travel. But if you're going to be doing that in an automobile, then whoever's operating it better have a driver's license. Okay, so she's about to quote 3 cases that she believes supports right to travel, and I'm going to quickly tell you why they don't.
So, here are some court rulings. The use of the highways for the purpose of travel and transportation is not a mere privilege, but a common and fundamental right of which the public and the individual cannot be rightfully deprived. Travel is not a privilege that can be permitted at will with forced insurances, registrations, licensing, but a common and fundamental right of liberty granted by the Constitution. This is a ruling, Chicago Motor Coach Company versus City of Chicago, 337, Volume 3.
Chicago Motor Coach Company versus the City of Chicago was a public works case, not a right to travel case.
Another court ruling. To be free to travel throughout the length and breadth of our land, uninhibited by statutes, rules, or regulations which unreasonably burden or restrain this movement. U.S. Supreme Court ruling, Shapiro versus Thompson.
Shapiro versus Thompson is kind of a rights to travel case, but it's more of a rights to welfare case. In Shapiro versus Thompson, they found that certain states were having minimum residency requirements of about 1 year before new residents could have access to public welfare programs. And the Supreme Courts found that that action by the states discouraged new residents from wanting to move there, thus violating their right to freely travel. But it had nothing to do with the rights to operate a motor vehicle on public roadways, Karen.
Let's do another one. If the state does convert your rights into a privilege and issue a license and a fee for it, you can ignore the license and a fee and engage the right without impunity. Shuttlesworth versus Birmingham.
Come on, Karen. Shuttlesworth versus Birmingham is not a rights to travel case. It's a First Amendment case and a right to protest and assemble case.
And I can go on and on and on. I have a whole book of court rulings here to prove to you that traveling is our unalienable right, secured to us under the Constitution.
The last thing I want in my life right now is to go through more court cases. Oh, wait. We have a Nate.
Hey, my name is Nate the Lawyer, and today we're going to talk about this sovereign citizen madness. Yes, I'm a real attorney, and we are going to talk about why they get confused when it comes to the right to travel. Now, in the United States, there's a difference between having the right to travel and having the right to a specific mode of travel. You have the right to walk wherever you want, but you don't have a right to drive there, right? Because to drive, the state says, well, you need to have a driver's license, you need to have insurance, for the general welfare of the people in that state. So the law in the United States, all over the place, right, universal, understands that you have the fundamental right to travel. So this is where I come in. I found a case in which the court specifically talks about whether you have a fundamental right to drive versus a fundamental right to travel. And that's what we're going to talk about right now. So you're looking at the case Miller v. Reed. This is a Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals case. Just for a little background, Miller is suing the state of California because Miller doesn't want to give his social security number for a license. And obviously you need a license to drive a car. So since Miller can't drive a car, he's saying that by the state not issuing him a driver's license, they are violating his fundamental right to travel under the U.S. Constitution. Now, he's also saying that there's a religious exemption here, but we really are focusing in on the right to travel. And let's see what the court says. Because just like in our case, where this woman is saying that, she was driving her car and she didn't have license, she didn't have proper license plates, she didn't have a license, she didn't have anything, right? And she's driving her car and she has a right to drive her car because she says she's traveling. So let's see how this court handles that topic. Miller contends that the DMV violated his fundamental right to interstate travel by depriving him of the use of his primary means of travel, driving an automobile. Does this sound familiar? Miller provides no precedent supporting the contention that absent a lack of due process, denial of a driver's license is tantamount to a denial of a constitutional right. The Supreme Court recognized the fundamental right to interstate travel. Attorney General of New York versus Soto Lopez. You should look up that case. Burdens placed on travel generally, such as gasoline tax. Minor burdens impacting interstate travel, such as toll roads, do not constitute a violation of that right. So Miller does not allege that the primary objective of the California Vehicle Code is to impede interstate travel, or that section 1653.5's regulation of driver licensing treats interstate travelers differently than intrastate travelers. Instead, because Miller cannot legally drive a car unless his driver's license is renewed, he argues that he has been deprived of an essential mode of transportation. And that's exactly what this woman is saying. She's saying that since she can't drive her car, this is an essential mode of transportation. Emphasizing the importance of automobiles in modern society, Miller contends that his right to interstate travel encompasses the fundamental right to drive a car. So here, the court has to deal with whether you have a fundamental right to drive a car. We have previously held that burdens on a single mode of transportation do not implicate the right of interstate travel. And they cite the case. A rich man can choose to drive a limousine. A poor man may have to walk. The poor man's lack of choice in the mode of travel may be unfortunate, but it is not unconstitutional. So this is for the proposition that the right to travel doesn't protect the mode of travel. So you don't have a right to fly a plane. You don't have a right to fly a helicopter when you go. And you don't have a right to drive a car. The mode of travel, you don't have a right to, but you do have the right to travel. In another case, City of Houston versus the FAA, they quote, "At most, the air carrier's plaintiff argument reduces to the feeble claim that passengers have a constitutional right to the most convenient form of travel." This woman is saying she has a constitutional right to a car because it's more convenient for her. That notion, as any experienced traveler can attest, finds no support whatsoever in the Supreme Court's right to interstate travel jurisprudence or in the airline's own schedules. The court's being cheeky here. The Supreme Court of Rhode Island, in a case, put it this way. The plaintiff's argument that the right to operate a motor vehicle is fundamental because of its relation to the fundamental right of interstate travel is utterly frivolous. The plaintiff is not being prevented from traveling interstate by public transportation, by common carrier, or a motor vehicle driven by someone who is licensed to drive it. What is at issue here is not the right to travel interstate, but the right to operate a motor vehicle on the public highway. And we have no hesitation in holding that this right is not fundamental. At the end, the court says, in sum, Miller does not have the fundamental right to drive a motor vehicle, and the DMV did not unconscionably impede his right to interstate travel by denying him a driver's license. So at the end of the day, we have a case here that is incredibly on point. The second highest court in the federal circuit is stating you do not have a fundamental right to drive, but you do have a fundamental right to travel. And that this woman's incident And when she was arrested for not having licensed planes, driver's license, and insurance, is 100% legitimate under both the Constitution of the United States, the laws of that state, and the jurisprudence of the court. That's how you drop it. My name is Nate the Lawyer, and back to my man, Team Skeptic.
Thanks, Nate. And all of you guys need to head over to Nate the Lawyer's and subscribe to his channel while you're there. Links will be in the description. So let's continue.
So let me continue what happened. So I pulled the window down about 6 inches and I tried to explain to this officer. I even gave to him my right to travel card, which had some of the court rulings and everything. Well, he didn't like it.
Oh, yeah, sure, Karen. I'm sure the officer was just absolutely pleased that you gave him your right to travel card instead of the driver's license that you're required to have and the one that he asked you for.
So he demanded that I produce driver's license and insurance, at which I knew that he doesn't know the law. But what do you do with an officer, with a man standing right next to your car who has guns?
Just watch out for the guns. They'll get you.
Right? So now it became a moment of coercion and intimidation. And I told him, I said, well, it's actually in the back of my car because, the fact that I still keep it, just in case maybe I like to engage in commerce, maybe I like to do Ubering sometimes in the future.
Karen, do you not remember earlier in this very video where you said that following speed limits and stopping at stop signs is not a law? You do not need to be an Uber driver, Karen.
But it is not a contract, okay? Very important to remember, it is not a contract. So I told him that I can reach for it in the bag, to which he said, nope, you have to keep your hands on the wheel. Well, before you know, I was coerced that I have to step out of my car, out of my vehicle, out of the safety of my automobile. And I knew that I'm at danger.
Oh, well, if that's the case, then I can't help but ask the question, how do you possibly survive the perils of the parking lot when you have to get out of the safety of your private automobile so that you can go inside the nearest Trader Joe's and ruin some manager's day?
By many other deputies, and I'm a peace-loving and, American. I don't want to fight, but I had no other choice. So this was absolutely armed coercion and intimidation. So I had to step outside of the safety of my property. I was immediately handcuffed. I was pulled behind my car. I was barefoot. I couldn't even put my shoes on. Had to spread my legs. Was searched unlawfully without a warrant. And then they kidnapped me and put me into the police car. And I was sitting there for an hour when they unlawfully searched my automobile without a warrant signed by a judge in a wet ink.
Well, I hate to break it to you, Karen, but when you do stupid shit like create your own diplomatic license plates and put them on your car and drive around, you put yourself in a position to have your car searched without the need for a search warrant signed by a judge in red ink. Where the fuck that means.
And then when I was released, the supervisors came and I talked to them. Everything they are doing, this is a deprivation of rights under color of law. Title 18, USC 242. And because it was now more than one officer there, now it's conspiracy of deprivation of rights under color of law. Title 18, USC 241.
It goes without saying that your right to travel freely between the states is suspended when you're detained, arrested, or incarcerated.
And this is high crimes. So I informed them of what's going on. I got my citation for all kinds of things, of producing false information and not having my license plate on, and it was just marked for misdemeanor, okay? But they were so wrong. They were so wrong, and they did wrong to me. So what I did, instead of, because as I said, I'm peace-loving American who knows her rights and who knows that our rights are secured to us by the supreme law of the land, which is the Constitution. And so what I did was I had no other choice but serve the officer with my declaration of truth under oath.
So now we get the pleasure of listening to her read off all the charges she intends on bringing up against this officer. And I'm just going to ring the dinger every time she says something stupid.
And what he got served was with perjury of oath, violation, due process, along with trespass upon my rights to be secure in my property, my automobile, trespass upon my rights to my private property, that he restrict my movement, kidnap me, hold me hostage, imprison me, unlawfully imprison me in his police car, assaulted me, bothered me, tortured me by isolating me from others, sent other people acting under his order to trespass upon me on his behalf, investigate me without lawful proof of probable cause on the suspect basis of unlawful conduct, conducted an invalid, unlawful investigation of me absent proper constitutionally compliant due process of law, as he is ordered and all the other deputies were, that he subjected me of intimidation and coercion, along with all the deputies, that he intimidated me and coerced me under color of law, which opposes due process and other rights guaranteed to me in the constitutions, national and state, as was done to me by his and his deputies on the above referent Friday morning. He also and all the officers engaged in racketeering, engaged in conspiracy, and despite his lack of constitutional authority, he committed all of those unconstitutional violations against me. And thereby perjured his oath, along with all the deputies that were present. And he has 20 days to respond to it.
Yeah, okay, Karen. I would say I'd love to see what the officer's reaction is when he receives your bullshit paperwork, but I already know exactly how he's going to react.
Oh, shit! Oh, shit! Oh, shit! No! That is not happening right now! No! Schmidt, you literally, this is the best thing ever!
And this is a lawful declaration, and it is a fraud if people of authority do not respond to it. It's acquiescence not to respond when there is duty to respond.
Let's also not forget the duty of the person who's suing the officer to properly serve him, because as it looks right now, it appears as if you tried to serve him, which you know you can't do, right? You can't serve the person you're trying to sue because it represents a conflict of interest. You have to get a third party that has no ties to the case whatsoever. And if you want to do it by certified mail like you're trying to do it, then you do realize that the officer has to agree in advance to make your life easier while you actively make his life harder. I'm going to chalk that up in the shit that never happened, Karen.
And I will be reporting more because now, we will see what the court does with that. If the case even goes on the docket with the court. Because now I have an admission from the officer that he did that without rebuttal, which is his confession.
Well, you heard it here first, all you criminal prosecutors out there. If you're trying a case and you need an easy confession, just give your declaration of truth under oath, send it off by certified mail, and if the defendant doesn't respond in 20 days, well, there's your confession.
That's not how it works. That's not how any of this works.
Okay, so I think this is going to be where we end the video today. Lenka Coloma is just one of many anti-mask Karens who have turned around and gone full sovereign citizen domestic terrorist Karens. And I'm going to be there to stop them every step of the way. Alright guys, thanks for sticking around until the end of the video. If you found this video interesting or entertaining, then give it a thumbs up, leave a comment below, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And don't forget to check the link in the description to head over to Nate the Lawyer's channel and subscribe to him as well. And a special and massive shout out to all of my channel members and patrons whose support helps me keep doing what I love to do. Calling out idiots on the internet. I'm Team Skeptic, and I'm out.